Do you remember when a well-stocked pantry meant the difference between comfort and hardship during those long, harsh winters? Our grandparents understood something we've nearly forgotten in our age of 24-hour grocery stores. Today we're exploring 25 essential foods that our ancestors relied on to survive the coldest months, foods that could last for years without refrigeration. Let's start with canned goods. Back in the day, rows of mason jars and tin cans lined every respectable pantry shelf, filled with everything from green beans to beef stew. Your grandmother probably spent entire weekends in late summer canning tomatoes, corn, and peaches, while the pressure cooker hissed on the stovetop. These weren't just convenient foods, they were insurance policies against uncertain times. A properly sealed can could last 5 years or more, though most families rotated their stock annually. The beauty of canned goods was their versatility. Canned vegetables could become a hearty soup, canned fruit could brighten a dreary February morning, and canned meats could transform into dozens of different meals. During the Great Depression, families often survived entire winters on what they'd canned the previous summer. The process itself was a community event, with neighbors sharing equipment and recipes, turning necessity into tradition: rice. That 50-pound bag of rice in your grandparents' cellar wasn't just food, it was foundation. White rice, when stored in airtight containers away from moisture and pests, could last 30 years or more. Think about that for a moment. Rice purchased during the Kennedy administration could theoretically still be edible today. Our ancestors understood this remarkable property and made rice a cornerstone of their winter preparations. At roughly 2 cents per serving even during tough times, rice stretched limited budgets while providing essential calories. Your grandmother probably had a dozen ways to prepare it, from simple boiled rice with butter and salt to rice pudding that used up extra milk and eggs. During particularly harsh winters, when fresh vegetables were just a memory, rice became the base for countless meals. Mixed with whatever canned goods were available, it could become a filling casserole. Combined with dried beans, it created a complete protein. The Chinese have a saying that goes, "Precious things are not as good as cheap rice," and Depression-era families learned this truth firsthand. Pasta. Before the days of artisanal pasta shops and organic whole wheat options, our grandparents stockpiled simple dried pasta by the case. Those cardboard boxes of elbow macaroni and egg noodles might not have been fancy, but they could sit in the pantry for years without spoiling. Pasta was the working family's best friend during long winters. At its peak during the 1930s, Americans consumed nearly 20 pounds of pasta per person annually, and most of it was the dried variety that could be stored indefinitely. Your grandmother probably made her own egg noodles too, rolling out the dough on the kitchen table and hanging strips to dry on wooden racks. These homemade noodles, when completely dried, could last just as long as store-bought varieties. The beauty of pasta was its ability to transform humble ingredients into satisfying meals. A bit of butter, some canned tomatoes, maybe a sprinkle of that carefully hoarded Parmesan, and suddenly you had dinner that could feed a family of 6 for pennies. Dried beans. Walk into any farmhouse pantry in the 1940s, and you'd find burlap sacks full of dried beans, navy beans, pintos, black-eyed peas, lima beans, kidney beans. These protein powerhouses could last up to 10 years when stored properly, making them perhaps the most economical survival food ever devised. Our grandparents knew that a pound of dried beans, costing just a few cents, could expand into enough food to feed a family for 2 days. The overnight soaking, the slow simmering on the wood stove, the aromatic blend of beans with salt pork or ham bones, these weren't just cooking techniques, they were survival skills passed down through generations. During the Dust Bowl years, when meat was a luxury most couldn't afford, beans became the primary protein source for millions of Americans. Bean soup could simmer all day, getting richer and thicker, ready whenever hungry children came in from the cold. Your grandmother probably had a special pot just for beans, seasoned over years of use, that made everything cooked in it taste better. Salt. You might take that blue box of salt for granted, but our grandparents understood its true value. Salt wasn't just seasoning, it was the original preservative, the mineral that made long-term food storage possible before refrigeration. A properly stored container of salt will last literally forever, never spoiling, never losing its essential properties. During frontier times, salt was so valuable it was sometimes used as currency. Our ancestors used it to cure meats, creating ham and bacon that could hang in the smokehouse for months. They packed fresh vegetables in salt brines, creating sauerkraut and pickles that provided crucial vitamins through winter months when fresh produce was impossible to find. The old saying, "worth his salt," came from the Roman practice of paying soldiers partially in salt rations. Your grandparents likely bought salt in 25-pound bags, storing it in wooden boxes lined with wax paper to keep moisture out. They understood that in truly hard times, salt could mean the difference between preserving the autumn harvest and watching it rot. Honey. That earthenware crock of honey in your grandmother's pantry held liquid gold that archaeologists have found still edible in Egyptian tombs after 3,000 years. Honey's natural antimicrobial properties mean it never spoils, making it one of nature's perfect survival foods. During the sugar rationing of World War II, honey became even more precious. Families who kept bees or knew local beekeepers had a tremendous advantage. A single tablespoon of honey could sweeten a whole pot of oatmeal, soothe a sore throat, or help preserve fruit for winter storage. Your grandparents probably used honey medicinally too, mixing it with whiskey for cough syrup, or applying it directly to cuts and burns. The old-timers knew that darker honey contained more antioxidants and minerals. They'd trade labor for honey, helping beekeepers with harvest in exchange for a share of the liquid gold. When sugar was scarce or expensive, honey could substitute in most recipes, though your grandmother had to adjust the liquid ingredients to compensate. Oats. Those cylindrical containers of rolled oats were winter breakfast staples that could last up to 2 years in the pantry. But our grandparents didn't just eat oatmeal. They understood oats as a versatile survival grain. Steel-cut oats, which they often called Irish oats, could be ground into flour for baking when wheat was scarce. During the Great Depression, a pot of oatmeal could stretch to feed a large family for pennies per serving. Your grandmother probably started it the night before, letting it slowly cook on the back of the stove where the fire had been banked. By morning, it was creamy and perfect, ready to fuel a day of hard work. Oats went into meatloaf to stretch precious ground beef, into cookies that would keep for weeks in a tin, and into homemade granola before anyone called it that. Scottish immigrants brought recipes for oat cakes that required no yeast and could be cooked on a griddle when the oven couldn't be fired up. The Quaker Oats man on the container became such a symbol of reliability that families would reuse those containers for decades. Canned milk. Before refrigerated trucks could deliver fresh milk year-round, canned milk was the backup plan that saved countless families. Evaporated milk, with 60% of its water removed, could sit on the shelf for years. Sweetened condensed milk lasted even longer. During World War I, the government promoted canned milk as patriotic, freeing up fresh milk for the troops. Your grandmother probably had a special technique for whipping evaporated milk into something resembling whipped cream, chilling the can and bowl in the snow before beating it to stiff peaks. These canned milks weren't just for emergencies either. Many Depression-era recipes specifically called for evaporated milk because it produced richer, creamier results than fresh milk. That famous pumpkin pie recipe on the back of the Libby's can? It was developed during the 1920s when canned milk was more common than fresh, in many households. Mothers would dilute evaporated milk for their children's bottles when fresh milk soured or wasn't available. Powdered milk. That box of dried milk powder might have been the least popular item in Grandma's pantry, but it was arguably the most important. Powdered milk could last 20 years when stored properly, providing calcium and protein long after fresh dairy was a distant memory. During World War II, fresh milk was often impossible to find, and powdered milk kept children healthy and bones strong. The trick, as any grandmother would tell you, was to mix it the night before and let it chill thoroughly. This improved both the taste and texture significantly. Smart homemakers would mix powdered milk with a small amount of fresh milk when it was available, stretching their dairy budget by half or more. Powdered milk went into everything from bread dough to mashed potatoes, adding nutrition without anyone being the wiser. During the Berlin airlift, powdered milk was one of the most crucial supplies dropped to the blockaded city, proving its importance as a survival food. Canned fruit. Those gleaming jars of peaches, pears, and cherries weren't just pretty to look at. They were vitamin C insurance for the long winter months. Your grandmother probably had a specific order for eating canned fruit, saving the favorites for special occasions while using the common varieties for everyday meals. Home canned fruit could last 2 to 3 years, while commercially canned varieties could go 5 years or more. During the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918, when fresh fruit prices skyrocketed, families survived on what they'd preserved the previous summer. The syrup from canned fruit never went to waste either. It flavored water for a sweet drink, got poured over pancakes, or was reduced down to make glazes for meats. Children who grew up during the Depression often recalled canned fruit as their only dessert. A single peach half carefully divided among siblings, the sweet syrup parceled out by the spoonful. Canned meat. Those little cans of deviled ham, Vienna sausages, and corned beef might seem quaint now, but they were protein lifelines during hard times. Spam, introduced in 1937, became so important during World War II that Eisenhower credited it with helping win the war. Your grandparents probably had mixed feelings about canned meat, grateful for its convenience and shelf life, but nostalgic for fresh cuts. Still, when properly stored, canned meat could last 5 years or more, providing essential protein when hunting was poor or livestock had to be sold. Creative cooks learned to doctor canned meat with spices and vegetables, turning it into hash, casseroles, and sandwich spreads that bore little resemblance to the original product. The military's sea rations familiarized an entire generation with canned meat, and they brought that acceptance home with them after the war. Canned fish, tuna, salmon, and sardines in cans provided not just protein, but essential omega-3 fatty acids that were otherwise hard to come by in winter. During the 1930s, canned salmon was often cheaper than canned meat, making it a Depression-era staple. Your grandmother's salmon. Patties made with canned salmon, crushed crackers, and an egg could feed the whole family for less than $1. Sardines, despite their strong flavor, were prized for their nutritional density and impossibly long shelf life. Canned fish could last up to 5 years, and the oil they were packed in was used for cooking, never wasted. Friday fish dinners weren't just religious observance for many families. They were economical survival tactics. That famous tuna noodle casserole topped with crushed potato chips? It was born from necessity during the 1950s, when convenience foods were symbols of modern prosperity. Sugar. White sugar, when kept dry, lasts indefinitely, a fact our grandparents counted on when they bought it in 25 or 50-pound sacks. Sugar wasn't just for sweetening. It was essential for preserving fruit, making jams and jellies that would last through winter. During both World Wars, sugar was rationed more strictly than almost any other food, making those who had stockpiled it beforehand very fortunate indeed. Your grandmother probably had a locked sugar bin to prevent pilfering by sweet-toothed children. She knew exactly how much sugar each recipe required and could stretch a pound of sugar further than seems possible today. Brown sugar, which could harden into a brick, was softened with apple slices or bread heels. During the Depression, sugar was sometimes the only birthday gift children received, a paper bag with a handful of sugar cubes being a treasured treat. Vinegar, those gallon jugs of white and apple cider vinegar, served dozens of purposes beyond salad dressing. Vinegar was the universal preservative before refrigeration, turning fresh cucumbers into pickles that would last all winter. Your grandparents used it for cleaning, medicine, and food preservation in equal measure. A properly sealed bottle of vinegar will last indefinitely, actually improving with age in some cases. During the influenza pandemic, people gargled with vinegar to prevent infection. Whether it worked or not, the practice gave people a sense of control during uncertain times. Vinegar was crucial for preserving eggs when production exceeded consumption in spring, allowing families to have eggs through the winter months. The old practice of shrubs, fruit syrups preserved with vinegar, created refreshing drinks when mixed with water. Bouillon cubes. Those little cubes wrapped in foil were flavor bombs that could transform water and vegetables into soup that tasted like it had simmered with meat bones all day. Invented in the early 1900s, bouillon cubes became essential pantry items by the 1930s. They were lightweight, lasted for years, and provided the savory depth that made simple foods satisfying. Your grandmother probably had a tin specifically for bouillon cubes, keeping them dry and potent. During meat rationing, these cubes were the secret to maintaining familiar flavors in meatless meals. A single cube could season a whole pot of beans or enhance gravies when meat drippings weren't available. Military cooks relied heavily on bouillon to make field rations palatable, and returning soldiers brought that appreciation home. Canned vegetables. Those rows of canned corn, green beans, and tomatoes weren't just convenient. They were nutritional insurance against scurvy and other deficiency diseases. Home canning reached its peak during the 1940s when Victory Gardens produced more than families could eat fresh. Your grandmother's pressure canner was probably her most prized possession, a tool that could preserve the summer's bounty for years to come. The phrase "putting up vegetables" meant long days of washing, cutting, blanching, and processing, but it also meant security. Commercially canned vegetables, while perhaps less flavorful than home-canned, could last even longer, some remaining edible after a decade. The liquid in canned vegetables was never discarded. It went into soups and gravies, carrying vitamins and minerals that had leached from the vegetables. Freeze-dried meals. While freeze-drying technology existed in our grandparents' time, it wasn't widely available to civilians until the space program popularized it. However, those who could access freeze-dried foods understood their incredible value. These meals could last 25 to 30 years, maintaining most of their nutritional value. They were lightweight, easy to prepare, and took up minimal storage space. Military families and those living in remote areas particularly valued freeze-dried foods. Just add boiling water, wait a few minutes, and you had a meal that tasted remarkably fresh. The process preserved foods without the weight of canning or the bulk of regular storage. Peanut butter. That jar of peanut butter was one of the few protein sources that required no refrigeration and could last up to a year unopened. During the Great Depression, peanut butter sandwiches became the standard lunch for millions of school children. It was cheap, filling, and provided essential fats and proteins growing bodies needed. Your grandmother probably made her own peanut butter when she could, grinding roasted peanuts with a hand-cranked grinder and adding just enough salt and oil to achieve the right consistency. Commercial peanut butter, stabilized with hydrogenated oils, lasted even longer. During World War II, peanut butter wasn't rationed, making it even more valuable as other protein sources became scarce. The combination of peanut butter and jelly, both shelf-stable foods, became an American icon during these lean years. Jerky. Long before it became a gas station snack, jerky was serious survival food. Our grandparents, especially those in rural areas, made jerky from deer, beef, and even turkey. Properly dried and stored, jerky could last 2 years or more without refrigeration. The process removed moisture that bacteria needed to grow while concentrating the protein and flavor. Making jerky was often a community effort after successful hunts, with families sharing recipes for marinades and comparing drying techniques. Native American pemmican, combining jerky with rendered fat and dried berries, provided complete nutrition in a compact form. Your grandfather probably had a specific way of slicing meat against the grain, marinating it in salt and spices, then hanging it to dry in a cold smokehouse or specially built drying box. Wheat berries. Those whole wheat kernels were the ultimate long-term storage grain, lasting 30 years or more when properly stored. Families with hand-cranked grain mills could have fresh flour whenever needed, far superior to pre-ground flour that went rancid within months. Your grandparents understood that wheat berries were living seeds that retained their nutrition until the moment of grinding. During the Depression, families would glean wheat fields after harvest, collecting enough fallen grain to last months. Wheat berries could also be cooked whole as a cereal or added to soups for substance. The process of grinding wheat became a morning ritual in many households, children taking turns at the mill to earn their breakfast. That fresh ground flour made bread that modern bakers still can't quite replicate. Canned sauces. Those jars and cans of tomato sauce, gravy, and other prepared sauces were the secret weapons that made repetitive ingredients taste different, night after night. A can of tomato sauce could last 5 years and transform pasta, rice, or beans into entirely different meals. Your grandmother probably had her own sauce recipes too, canning them in late summer when tomatoes were abundant and cheap. During rationing, when spices were hard to obtain, prepared sauces provided flavor complexity that home cooks couldn't achieve otherwise. The famous Sunday gravy that simmered all day often started with canned tomato sauce as its base, proving that convenience foods could still produce traditional results. Applesauce. Canned applesauce served multiple purposes in our grandparents' pantries. It was dessert for children, a butter substitute in baking when fats were rationed, and a side dish that complemented both sweet and savory meals. Home canned applesauce could last 3 years, while commercial varieties went even longer. During apple season, families would gather for applesauce making parties, peeling and cooking bushels of apples, often seconds or windfall fruit that couldn't be stored fresh. The natural pectin in apples meant no added thickeners were needed, and the natural sweetness meant sugar could be minimized. Your grandmother knew that unsweetened applesauce could go into everything from cakes to pork chops, adding moisture and subtle flavor. Dehydrated vegetables. Before freezers became common, dehydration was the most space-efficient way to preserve vegetables. Our grandparents dried everything from carrots to cabbage, storing them in cloth bags or glass jars where they'd keep for years. These vegetables might not have had the texture of fresh, but they retained most vitamins and minerals. Soup mix combining various dried vegetables could transform into a hearty meal with just water and thyme. During World War II, dehydrated vegetables freed up shipping space for military supplies, and civilians learned to appreciate their convenience. Your grandmother probably had a sunny window or attic space specifically for drying vegetables, spreading them on screens covered with cheesecloth. Herbs and spices. Those little tins and jars of dried herbs and spices were worth their weight in gold when fresh seasonings were unavailable. Properly stored in airtight containers away from light, dried herbs and spices could maintain potency for years. Our grandparents often grew their own herbs, drying them in bundles hung from kitchen rafters. These weren't just flavor enhancers. Many herbs served medicinal purposes too. During the Depression, when meat was scarce, the right combination of herbs could make vegetables taste rich and satisfying. The spice cabinet was often locked, with precious items like vanilla, cinnamon, and black pepper carefully rationed. Dried seaweed. Coastal families knew the value of dried seaweed long before it became trendy health food. Seaweed provided iodine, iron, and other minerals that were hard to obtain from land-based foods during winter. Properly dried, it could last indefinitely, ready to be rehydrated for soups or ground into powder as a salt substitute. Irish immigrants brought traditions of gathering and drying dulse and carrageen moss, which sustained their families through famines. Asian families preserved nori and kombu using techniques passed down for generations. That umami flavor we prize today was survival food for our ancestors, making simple broths taste complex and satisfying. Thanks for joining us on this trip down memory lane. If you enjoyed exploring these 25 survival foods, give it a like and share it with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe.